Okay, we are going to go over the practice test. I'm hoping I can get through this kind of quickly. This way you guys can study this tonight. So the first number 1 and 2, they are the order of operations. So don't confuse solving equations. So whenever we do this, we are going to use PEMDAS. So your parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, and then your addition and subtraction. So on part 1, you got to work inside your parentheses out. So you do 40. Keep that the same. We're going to do 9 minus 6 first. Keep your bracket. You're going to do 11, and then 9 minus 6 is 3. Next, you're going to continue doing what's inside parentheses. So 11 minus 3 is 8. 40 divided by 8 is going to give you 5. That is your answer. Next one, we are going to work inside the parentheses out. So we're going to work inside the innermost parentheses. 24 minus 3. Keep our bracket, 5. And then 8 minus 4 is 4. Divided by 12. Since that 5 is right next to that parentheses for the 4, you're going to multiply them. So you're going to have 4 minus 3 times 20 divided by 12. Lastly, you're going to do your multiplication and division because you do your subtraction last. So you do 3 times 20. You're going to get 60 divided by 12. You then do your division, which is 60 divided by 12 is 5. So you have 24 minus 5. Your answer is 19. So that is how we do our order of operations. So kind of remember of how we did that previously in previous grades before we started solving equations. Okay, next going down to classifying polynomials. So our first one, it has a leading coefficient of 5. That means we have to go through, find our largest exponent, and that number the number in front of the largest exponent is your leading coefficient. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to underline my leading coefficient in red in each problem. Okay, I'm going to do a different color for each line. So I've underlined each of my leading coefficients. So it's my biggest exponent in that problem. So the first one, my leading coefficient is 4. So that's not -5. My second one, it is -5. So I'm going to put an X. My third one, it's 3. And my last one, it's 1. So I only have one with leading coefficient of 5. Next, classify the degree as quartic. So that means your largest exponent in the entire polynomial is 4. So I'm going to circle my largest exponent in each one. So 2 is my largest in that one, 2 is my largest in that one, your 3 and then 2. 4 is my largest in this one, and 5 is my largest in this one. So the only one with the largest exponent of 4 is the third one. Next, in standard form, so that means my biggest exponent is first, and I'm working my way down. This one is not in standard form because you have your 2 and then your 3. Second one is not in standard form because you have your constant first, and that always goes at the end. Third one is in standard because I go 4 and then 2 in my exponents, and then your last one goes 5, 4, then your x to the first power, and then your constant. So that one is also in standard form. And then your last problem, has a constant term of -6. So the first one has no constant. This is my constant in my second one. Third one doesn't have a constant, and then I have a +6 in my last one. So constant is just a number by itself. So the second one is the only one that has a -6 constant. So that is how we do that, and there's going to be something exactly like that on your test, so be aware of that. Next one, what is the difference? So we can do this one of two ways. If we know 5x squared minus 8x plus 3, we're taking that because we're finding the difference, so we're subtracting. Minus 7x minus 4. We have to change our subtraction to addition, and then we change the sign in the parentheses right after. So now we have our problem, and we're going to combine like terms. So I only have 1x squared. I have a -x over here and an x over here. And then I have a constant here and a constant here. So I'm just going to combine my like terms. So I have 1x squared, so I got 5x squared. I I have a negative 8x and a negative 7x, so I add those since they're both negative, and I keep my negative 15x, and then I have a positive 3 and a positive 4, so I add those together and I get 7. That is my answer. You can also, the second way to do it is to have 5x squared minus 8x plus 3. And then I'm subtracting. You have to line up your terms. 7x minus 4. I don't have any squared, so I'm just going to put a 0 there. Since this is negative, I change this to positive. This 7 becomes negative, and this 4 becomes positive. And then I add them. So 5x plus 0 is 5x squared. I have a negative 8x and a negative 7x, same sign, so I add them, and I keep the negative 15x. Positive 3 and a positive 4, I add them and keep my positive sign, 7. So you can do this either or, but that is both ways on how to do that one. Next page. So this one is our perimeter problem. So this is where you add your two sides together and then you subtract it from your total perimeter. So these two sides together, I'm going to combine my like terms. I only have 4y squared, I have 2y's, and I have 2 constants. So adding those together, I just combine them, so I get 4y squared. So that term's eliminated. I have 5y and 6y. They're both positive, so I add them to get 11y. And then I have a positive 5 and a negative 2, so I subtract them and keep the sign on the bigger number, so I will get 3. So that is my perimeter of the two sides. And then I take 6y squared plus 2y plus 3, and I subtract from it my total perimeter from down here, which is 4y squared plus 11y plus 3. So since this is subtraction, I have to change this to addition and change all my signs on the inside, which happens to make them all negative. And then I solve. So 6y squared and negative 4y squared is 2y squared. Positive 2y and negative 11y, different signs, so I subtract. So I get 11 minus 2 is 9, and then I keep the sign on the biggest number, on the bigger number, so it's going to be a negative 9y. Positive 3 and a negative 3 is 0. So my answer is 2y squared minus y. You can have the 0 or you don't have to put it. So remember on that one, you have to add your two sides of your triangle, and then you subtract the sum of those sides from your total perimeter. Next, fill in the table by classifying the type of polynomial. So the first column, so this whole column, we're classifying by degree. So that's our constant, linear, quadratic, cubic, quartic. And then on this column, we're classifying by polynomials. So that's the number of terms. So your monomial, binomial, trinomial, and polynomial. So looking at this first one, I have my biggest degree is 4. So that means I'm just going to be quartic. Or my biggest exponent is 4. Then I have 1, 2, 3 terms. So it's a trinomial. Next one, degree. I do have a variable, so it's not going to be a constant. But that y has an exponent of 1. That's my biggest exponent, so it's going to be linear. There's only one term, so it's monomial. Next one. My biggest exponent is 3, so it's cubic as my degree. And make sure you guys classify between degree and terms. And then my terms, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And it is a polynomial since it's 4 and more. Remember the terms you classify by, so addition or subtraction sign separates your terms. Okay, moving on to the next, where we solve our equation. So you guys seem to be doing a lot better on this. So on our first one, our first step is to combine our like terms since there's no distributive property. Negative 2n and a positive 6n. Since they are on the same side of our equal sign, we are not doing the opposite. We just combine them. So we have a negative 2 and a positive 6. We subtract since they're different. Keep the sign on the bigger, so we get 4n minus 20 equals 12. Next step, move our constant. So do the opposite, which is add 20. This cancels, so you're left with 4n equals 32. Last step, divide to get that n by itself. Your 4's cancel, and you're left with n equals 8. Next step, or next problem. So I have a fraction, so I just want to get rid of it. So I find my biggest denominator, which is 4, multiply the whole thing. Remember, I just multiply the numerator of my fraction. I get 4 over 4x equals negative 20, because I have to multiply that whole number too. 4 over 4x is the same as 1x, which equals x, so x equals negative 20. And that's all on that one. So, moving on to my next problem, which is on the next page. Okay. So my first step is we'd have to distribute. So that 4. So we bring down our 9. Do not subtract. Do not do 9 minus 4. You have to distribute first. You do not do your subtraction yet. So you do 9 minus 4y minus 4 equals 5 minus y minus 3y. Next step, I'm going to combine my like terms. So positive 9 and negative 4 gives you 5 minus 4y equals 5 minus 4y. Next step, I want to get my variables on one side, so I'm going to add 4y on both sides. Just so happens I get 5 equals 5. If your sides equal each other, this means you have many solutions. Whenever your sides do not equal each other, so if I have like negative 4 equals 5, those don't equal each other, so that's no solution. Okay, next problem. This one is kind of tricky. So I find my biggest exponent, or biggest denominator, and multiply. Remember, only multiply to your numerator. So I get 3 over 2w minus 6 over 3 equals 12. I get 3 over 2w minus 2 equals 12. I still have a denominator, you guys. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2 to get rid of it. So I multiply to each term. So I get 6 over 2w minus 4 equals 24. So once I have that, 6 divided by 2 is 3, so I get 3w minus 4 equals 24. Add 4. You get 3w equals 28. And then divide by 3. You do get a fraction, you guys, and that is more than okay. You can feel free to leave it in fraction form. So w equals 28 divided by 3. Okay, number 11. Our first step is to distribute. We get 6x minus 12 equals 3x minus 18. Our next step is to get that variable on one side. I'm going to subtract 3x. Subtract 3x. I get 3x minus 12 equals negative 18. And then add my 12 to cancel it on my right. To cancel it on my left to get it on my right. So I get 3x equals, I get negative 6 since it's a negative 18 and a positive 12. You subtract them and keep the sign on the bigger number. My last step is to divide. So I'm going to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Negative 6 divided by 3 equals negative 2. So that is the answer to that problem. Next, we're going to look at Jack and Jill again. This is the exact same problem from your study guide, actually. So if you remember that, Jack, so he has negative 70, just brings that straight down. He has negative 2, times d and negative 2 times negative 4. Should get negative d plus 8. And then he combined negative 70 and negative 2d to get negative 90. That's his answer. He did good. Jill, she brought down her negative 7d. She did negative 2 times d is negative 2d. Negative 8 times negative 4. This should be a positive 8. So it should be. So this should be a positive 8 in her answer. So she did not do it right. So Jill did not multiply the negative 4 correctly. So she should have gotten a positive 8 versus a negative 8. Okay, next page. This one is tricky, and you guys can use your calculators on this test. So if there's a fraction like this and you're distributing, this fraction actually cancels, so you don't need to clear out the denominator. So your first step, you're going to distribute. So if you use your calculator, you can do in parentheses 1, so I'm going to write it here, 1 divided by 3, close your parentheses, and then multiply it times 6, and you're going to get 2. It's basically saying 1 divided by 3 times 6 over 1 equals 6 over 3, which equals 2. So I'm going to distribute. I get, I get 2x, and then I have 1 over 3 times 3 over 1. That'll give me a 1. And then I don't, since that 1/3 is just next to those parentheses, I don't need to carry it over to the 11, so it equals 11. This is my distributive property. Okay, next I'm going to add this 1 over. So I get 2x equals 12. This is my, since I'm adding, it's my, well, if I can write it right, it is my addition property of equality. And then my last step, I'm going to divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So your answer is 6. And this last step was the division property of equality, since I did it to both sides. And that is that problem. Whenever you guys are writing these steps, I had a couple people put distributive POE. It's not distributive POE because it did not happen to both sides. It's only whenever it happens to both sides that we do POE. Okay, word problems. So this first one I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight or underline my key information. There are 287 students with iPhones at Simonson. This number has been increasing, so increasing is a keyword, at a rate of 6 students per year. The number of students there are a number of students with Android phones is 109, and it is increasing at a rate of 14 students per year. If the trend continues, how many years will it take for the number of students with iPhones to equal number of students with Androids? So we know, since we want our sides, we want them to know how many years it's going to take for them to equal. Our sides are going to equal each other. So first, it's asking if the trend continues, how many years. So we're going to make, sorry, guys. So since we're finding out how many years I'm going to use y as my number of years. So my equation, I'm going to put my iPhone side equal to my Android side. So my iPhones, I have 287 students with iPhones, plus it is increasing at 6 students per year. So I'm going to represent that by 6y. Then I have Android, I have 119, and it is increasing by 14 students per year. So I'm going to do 14y. And then I solve. I'm going to subtract 14y to get my variable on the same side. It cancels on this side, so I'm left with 287 minus 8y equals 119. I then subtract 287. Sorry to that, you guys. And I get negative 8y equals, you guys will have calculators, so you can use calculators on this, so don't be afraid. 168, negative 168. since your bigger number is negative. Then divide by negative 8 on both sides. Negative 168 divided by negative 8y equals 21. So your sentence, it will take 21 years for the number of students with iPhones to be the same as those with Android phones or Androids. And that is answering my question for my word problem. So that is that word problem. Okay, we are almost finished, you guys. Next page. So this one, it says select all expressions that represent the perimeter of the rectangle. So, like we discussed in class, perimeter, you add all your sides together. So I'm going to label all my sides. Your opposite sides are equal. So I'm going to go through. Since I know I have to add them all together, I can't multiply my sides together. And then the second one says 5x. I know I have to add 5x and 5x together, so I'm at least going to have 10x. So that's wrong. So you can cross out that one too. Then if I'm working my way down, it says 2 times x plus 2. That's right. Since I have 2x here, and x plus 2, and x plus 2, so I have to multiply the 2. That's right. And I have 2, 5x minus 10. So that one is correct. Then 12x minus 16. So I have 5x and 5x, it's 10x, plus another x is 11x, plus another x is 12x. That is right. And then I have negative 10 and negative 10 is negative 20, plus a positive 4, that's negative 16. So this one is also correct. And then, let's see, last one says x plus 2 plus x plus 2 plus 5x minus 10 plus 5x minus 10. That's exactly what I said. You just have to add all your sides together. So that one is also right. Next one, while shopping online, Betty finds bracelets for $6.35 each. She decides to get some for her birthday. She spends $7.90 on shipping, and her total is $46. So if each bracelet is $6.35, you're going to do $6.35B. So you know you can't do this one, and you know you can't do this one. And then her total is 46. So on the other side of the equal sign, it's going to equal 46. So $6.35B would be the cost of each, plus her shipping. That'll equal your total. So your answer is C. Then it says use the equation from above. So whichever equation you pick to determine the number of bracelets Betty bought. So I have 635B plus 790 equals 46. Subtract 790. Subtract 790. I get 635B equals 3810. Like I said, I had a calculator doing this, which you guys will have on the test. And then the next step is divide by 635. Divide by 635. B will equal 6. So please write a sentence. So Betty bought 6 bracelets. So that is my sentence. Okay. Last problem, and this one is similar to the donut problem we did in class. If you guys want to go back to your notes and look at that. So it says use the table below to complete the following questions. You have your 2 gym memberships. You have a base price, which includes 15 visits, and then you have a price for each of the plans, which includes the cost of each additional visit after 15. So first question. How many visits are needed for the cost to be the same for the plans? Remember the same? You have to set your sides equal to each other. So you have to think of your equations for each problem. So this one, First of all, we're going to have, since it's 15 visits and then price for each additional visit, we're going to do V equals visit as our variable, or number of visits. So our first equation, this one is going to be 18 plus 5V, and this one's going to be 36 plus 3V. So for that, we're going to set our equations each equal to each other. And then we solve. Subtract 3V from both sides. Those cancels. We are left with 18 plus 2. Oops. 2V equals 36. Subtract 18. You get 2V equals 18. And then your last step is to divide by 2. So you get V equals 9. So if we write our sentence, there need to be 9 additional, because it's asking for additional visits, for the cost to be the same. So that is our sentence for that problem. Okay, last part. If you want 10 extra visits, which plan is most effective? Use mathematical calculations. So if we have plan A, it cost $18 for 15. Since I want 10 extra, I'm going to do 5 times 10, since it's $5 for each additional visit. So I have to do 5 times 10. So I get 18 plus 50. So this plan would cost $68 if I do 10 additional visits. Plan B. It costs $36 plus $3 for each additional visit after 10. So for the extra visits, there's 10 of them. So it'd be 10. 36 plus 3 times 10 is 30. 36 plus 30 is 66. So which plan is going to be the most cost effective? So plan B is the most cost effective option. And that is the end of that. If you have any questions over this, feel free to email me tonight. I will try to keep an eye on that and respond if I am asked any questions. Good luck studying, you guys.